If you haven't seen Cavs point guard Darius Garland this season, I highly recommend it, assuming you're into shifty little point guards who dance to the basket, shoot tear-dropping pillows from all over the court, and drop dimes with the best of them. Garland, whose dad Winston once committed this heinous crime against John Stockton in Salt Lake City, is still only 21 years old, but he's already filled up his pantry with a ton of exotic spices. This is the futuristic version of his dad's crossover, and then some slippery English on the lefty finish. Darius obviously has a nice handle, and that pairs with his herky-jerky stop and start game. And I really love his footwork and balance when he's mixing with the ball, stopping on a dime here by dragging his back leg, while he picks it up to shed Derrick Jones Jr.'s 7-foot wingspan. On the very next play, he puts Jones back in the torture chamber, buckles him with a cross, and then just feathers in a jumper. And this isn't just soft, but it's quick, with a release speed of around half a second from the time he picks it up to the time it leaves his hand, which is only about a tenth of a second behind peak Steph Curry. And the touch on some of these is extraordinary, barely moving the net or the rim, and that kind of elite hand-eye coordination not only helps his ball handling, but also his finishing, altering the arc on this one to lob it over 7'3" Kristaps Porzingis. Garland is already a 90% shooter from the line, and if that holds, he'd be just the fourth player ever to hit the mark with 150 free throw attempts in his age 22 season, joining Chauncey Billups, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry. He's also hitting a scorching 47% of his two-pointers outside of 10 feet, and clocks in at 39% from downtown, which is a really nice number considering that 60% of his attempts are off the dribble like this. Also, notice how balanced he is on these, with that quick little hop setting a base for his fluid shot motion, and that's important with all that stop-and-go dribbling because he can bounce right into shots and square himself in the process. That opens up the step-back game, and since he's got nice range on these deep rainbows, he can hop himself into position heading to the left and heading to the right, and that's just filthy. He can also get into these off of movement, and I love how he can flow into his shot fairly quickly on these plays, using a quick hop to square himself on this one, but he can also turn off of 1 foot like he does here on this long two, and that just opens the door for all kinds of actions, including cutting back door on an overplay like this, and that balance and soft touch extend to these one-legged runners and floaters. By the way, his floater game is lovely, and he'll glide into these comfortably off the wrong leg. These funky shots and atypical finishes might be my favorite part of his scoring game, like jumping off that right leg to kiss this one home, or then using the threat of his floater game to set up a defender, driving hard to the middle of the paint, and then 90-degree turning with a little English to boot. And this one's so filthy it looks like it came from Steve Nash's greatest hits. He actually reminds me of Nash, who not only finished off his right leg a bunch, but also played with a herky-jerky style and was one of the best mid-range shooters ever. And like Nash, Garland will probe around in the paint in traffic while keeping his dribble alive, and he has plenty of creative finishes in his bag. He also reminds me of another Cavalier point guard, Mark Price, himself an all-time level shooter who played with a choppy style, dropping step-backs in the early 90s and buckling defenders with his handle and slick shooting. Of course, Nash and Price were offensive legends because of their incredible playmaking skills, and Garland's shown passing promise for his age, starting with his quick deliveries. I've talked about the importance of swift, live dribble passes that find windows in the milliseconds before they close, and Darius has a slingshot off his left hand for these cross-court completions. Here, he's reading 3 defenders, the man chasing the cutter, the low man, and Karl Anthony Towns off the screen. Notice that he's ready to fire once his target clears the pick, but waits until Towns lets him go to thread a perfect needle for a dunk. Here's more of that okey-doke hesitation game into an underhanded release, and this is impeccable because he throws it right as Towns comes off Jared Allen, using his momentum against him. And Garland's shown the anticipation and timing for high-level passing. Watch his eyes here. He's waiting for Allen to get far enough up court so he can go straight into a dunk. But on this one, the delivery is a soft lob, because once this defender commits to the ball, he can drop it over the top to a streaking Colin Sexton. And note that he passes it from half court when Sexton is at the three-point line, and a half second later, Paul George would have blown the whole thing up. So, he's able to vary his speeds and deliveries, and he's willing to throw into tight windows. I love this one because there's 5 seconds on the shot clock, Boston's in a zone, and Garland throws it into two defenders, but to a spot where only Allen can catch it. Jarrett is his favorite target, and he obviously loves throwing lobs up to him, and that makes him a solid partner in the pick and roll game too. Check out this play where Washington drops back off the ball screen, conceding the floater, but it's really a jump pass to Allen, and blending the floater into a pass is already something Garland does well. There's really no difference between the shot setup and the pass setup in these spots, so if the big man stays with the roller, he can comfortably shoot it, but the second he comes off, it's an easy lob. Manipulating defenders like this is a hallmark of great passing, and here it's a subtle move toward a floater or step back, but that horizontal movement pulls the defense away from the paint to broaden the passing window. There's also this epic ball fake in Minnesota where he tugs the entire defense like a puppet master because he knows the Wolves are in their chaotic rotations and will scramble at another pass. Unfortunately, Lauri Markkanen did not realize that, and yes, that was his bad. Remember, teams are worried about Garland's shooting, and when you can shoot and pass on the move, it opens up all kinds of options, including synergy in the two-man game like this. Here's another freestyle play where he uses his shooting threat to set up a cut, and then the perfect quick trigger lob up to Allen. He doesn't miss many of these passes. He could throw this a dribble earlier, but it didn't matter in that case, and he sees most openings on the floor. He actually spots this baseline cut, but is too small to get it there. Darius's bigger issue right now is turnovers, a natural byproduct of probing and looking for layup passes constantly. And I don't mind a lot of these turnovers. They're a small price to pay for all the layups and tight windows he tries to throw into. But with added experience and a little more strength, I think he can clean up some of these forays into the paint, making them less boom or bust. His larger weaknesses are on the defensive end, where it's difficult to make an impact at 6'1" with a slender build. Opponents can shoot over him and overpower him right now on drives or post-ups. He works plenty hard on the ball, sliding with his chest up to recover here, but he's beat at the end until Evan Mobley saves the day. Despite his shiftiness on offense, his change of direction isn't actually that brisk. With the ball, he can dictate the action, but on defense, he doesn't have great recovery speed, here breaking slowly before a soft contest. I see two areas to improve. First, his feet can be a bit heavy at times. Patrick Beverley isn't exactly Flash Gordon out there, but you'll see Garland dragging or heel striking his feet when he slides around, and that gets him behind and he can't quite recover. Second is the forward lean in his technique. When he follows players, his torso lunges out as he takes little steps, and he almost looks like he's in a conga line instead of sliding and driving through these screens. You can see his acceleration issues and that tendency to lean forward on this backdoor when he's beat, which throws off his balance and recovery for his next rotation. Another area of improvement is anticipating actions. He falls a touch behind this play, and he isn't agile enough to recover in situations like that. Here's another example where he's flat-footed, then falls a beat behind, works hard to get side by side, but then fouls on a reach-in. Compare that to this sequence, where he correctly goes under the first screen and then moves himself up into position to navigate that second screen, and that keeps him connected. Away from the ball, he's not much of a playmaker. This is nice positioning on the weak side, but he's so small the pass still gets through, although he is pretty aware of the action, as we might expect from his passing, sliding with a cutter here, and I think he could leave a touch earlier on the next pass on this play. He's not super active off the ball on defense. He thinks about helping here, but wisely retreats, and he tends to glue himself to his man in these spots instead of making that second effort. He's solid positioning himself early in possessions and reading the action. That's a really nice help, and his hands are actually decent at targeting the ball when he's really close to it. Given his physical attributes, I don't know if he can ever become a clear positive on the defensive end, although I think attitude and effort will govern his growth there. His strong spatial awareness could make him a nice help defender and communicator. Impact metrics tend to see him as a somewhat negative on the defensive end, and that drags down his strong offensive numbers in these stats. Another key area to watch is whether he can get to the basket or the free throw line more. It's very hard to be an efficient scorer at high volume, living off a diet of jumpers and floaters, so it's likely he'll need to create more than just 23% of his offense from free throws or shots at the rim. On the other hand, his shooting indicators are amazing for his age, so 90+% from the line and 40% from three are both in play, but an increase in strength and physicality could jump his offense to another level. That would also help on the defensive end and could be the difference between Garland being an all-NBA level player and someone who struggles to make all-star games. For me, I already think that combination of on and off-ball scoring, passing, and shooting are good enough to call him a strong sub-all-star or even a borderline all-star player right now. To support this channel, head on over to patreon.com/thinkingbasketball. You can get extras. We've got more content like video, articles, stats, a proprietary leaderboard that updates daily throughout the season, a community, live Q&A, and more. As always, thanks for watching all the way to the end, and wherever you are, I hope you are having a happy new year, and of course, a great day.